Hi guys, you're welcome to Netcode-Hub channel. We are here to talk about JWT Authorization. We started a project already and we have two videos for authentication and also creating custom HTTP handler that are going to add the bearer token to all requests that you're going to make to the API to make the API or to make the endpoint secured. So today's time around, we're going to talk about authorization. Authorization is by giving the person access to your application. So in such case, we can add user, administrator, manager, super user, any other roles that you want to assign to a user. As soon as the user gets registered, you can assign the role to the user. And that is what we're going to have a look today. I made a few changes offline. Now let me go through that with you and know what you've done. So you can see from the first and the second project, we created separate modules in each of the project. That is the Blazor client and also the API. You can see from the first and the second project that we duplicated the modules. For registration module, we had a separate registration module from the server and also from the client. Login to, we did the same. Response, we did the same. That isn't the best way to do that. So what I did was I just added C# library. Now this C# library comprises of these entities over here. So I added one folder as entities and our modules. So you can see the same thing that we did, the same module that we created as registration entity. I have it here. Also, token settings, also I have it. Login module, I have that. And our registration module, I have that. And I also added this response module. After doing that, I deleted them from the server and now the client section. So all of these are going to be shared by this. So we're going to add this shared logic library to the Blazor client, and also we're going to add this to the API so that both projects can share this library. Okay, so that is the few changes that we did. What I added was the registration entity. Now you can see from the registration entity that from here, we have the user ID and also we have the email and password. Which, if you check the registration module here, it has a name, email, password, and a confirmed password. In a REST sense, in a database, you don't want to store confirmed password. Confirmed password, it is a property that we added to check the password connection with the first and the second one. But we don't want to store that in the database. So we have to create a new module. That's what we're going to be using to get into the database. And that is the reason why I created this registration entity. So when you check this, when you check the API, AppDB context, you can see instead of using registration module, I added a registration entity because that is what you're going to be using to store the data that we want into a database. And that is what we did. If this is the first time of watching this video, then we have other two videos over there. Check the description and I'll put the link over here. Also, when I'm done with this project, it's going to be on GitHub. So you can just go in there and I'll clone the project over here. I'll put the link under the description so you can also check it over there. If you like what I'm doing, please give me a thumbs up. If you do that, it enables other people to also see this because it pushes this video far for a lot of people to see. And I'm very grateful for you doing that for me. Now let's get going to today's business. So what we need to do first is we have to add a user role because you want to have a role to the, which is going to be assigned to the user as soon as he finishes registering. So we go to our entities here. Now let's add a class. And now the class is going to be user role. So with this user role, we want to have access to ID, username, and a role. So let's make this as public. So let's go in there to the AppDB context and I'll add this because you want to create a database table for this. So we have to add that to the AppDB context. And we go to the project API and AppDB context. So let's paste this user role here. Okay. So you see, as soon as you do that, it has added shared logic library.models.entities. We have the namespace added here. So as soon as we add new entity, it means you have to perform database migration. But before that, let's build this project first. So it is built successfully. So let's click on Package Manager Console, and now we're going to add database migration. So make sure we select the API from here, and now let's clear this. So .NET EF, let's see if it is there already. Okay, so we have it. Now let's go in there, and now let's get into the API. So let's copy this and let's change directory here. So cd, let's paste this. Now ls, you see we are inside this API project. So .NET EF migrations, then add user row table, and user row table is a name, so we can just change the name to any name that you want. Now let's add migration. Okay, so it is done. Now what you have to do here is update the database. So .NET EF database update. Let's paste in what we copied. Alright, so you can see it is done now. So when we check our database, we definitely going to have, let's refresh this. We're going to have the table in there. So let's say from here. So tables, and you must have the user row table also added. Yeah, so that is it, user rows. Okay. Now the next thing that we're going to do here is we want to store the row. We want to assign the row to the user as soon as the user registers. So let's go to our user repo. So that's going to be the user repo in the API. So in here, because you have registration, and now here we are registering. So before we save this data, or after saving this data to the database, we want to also store the row of this user. The default one is the user. So let's give this person a default row of user. We can add row. So let's say now here we want to add a user row. So first of all, we want to get a recently user added, and that is what we have over here. We can do that by getting the email, and after getting this email, we want to check if the email starts with admin. That's what you want to do. If the email starts with admin, then we want to assign the user row to the current row that we have over here. That is the user ID, and the row is going to be the admin. But in case it is not, then we want to assign the row as what user, and now we assign the current ID, because the database has to, the row user database has to get the user ID and the row. So as soon as we store the data, we can retrieve the ID from it, and now check if the email starts with admin, then assign the row as admin. But if it is not, then assign the row as user. So defaultly, as soon as your email starts with admin, you're going to be an administrator. And this, you're going to check. Maybe you can actually move further and check if anyone tries to register with admin, while admin is registered already, then that person is going to be someone else, not the real admin, because real admin has to have only one email in that. So you can check if the database contains any email that is known as an admin, then it is sealed. We don't want to add any admin again. Okay, we can do that from here. But for now, let's maintain this. And what we do here is, we see this user row, we add, and I will save changes, and return successfully created. So as soon as you create your account, you have your row also created. So the next thing is, when it comes to login, you want to return username, token, and also the user row. These are the three things that you want to return when a person logs in. So let's go in there and create a module here. And now this module is going to be under just modules. Let's add a class that is known as user session. So we add the user session. Okay, so that is the user session class. Now let's click on add. And now within this class, we want to add these properties. So let's send this to public. So you want to add username, row, and add the token that has been generated. So when it comes to, you go to the user repo, and now when it comes to the login, you want to make some few changes. So instead of this sending just response here, we can use the user session. So we can return this user session. And now all this, you can just override this with this one. So what are you doing? We check if the module is null, you want to return new user session, and that's going to be empty one. And also we check if it is not null, then we want to grab the user from database and now correspond with the email. When we do that, you want to grab the email that we have, you want to grab its row from the row database by using the ID that we have from the user table. So when we have the user row and the user table, when you have the user row and the user itself, that's what you're doing here. If anyone is null, you want to return empty. If it is not, then here we want to check, do password match? So you want to verify this username and password, and then that is a method over here to verify. After verification and this returned false, you want to return new one. But if it returns true that the password do match, then you want to generate this token. So under generating this token, we are passing in the email and now the row. So we need the email and the row to generate this token. So that means that when it comes to this generate token, it has to accept only email and now row. So here, it has to be string email and also string row. So these are the properties that you want to pass into this generate user token. So in here, let's open this and I'll make few changes in here. So you can see from here, we create the key, we create our credentials, and now with the claims, let's modify these claims. So you want to add only the claim type of name, and that's going to be the person's email. You want to add the claim types of row, and that's going to be the current row that we have assigned. Okay, now aside from that, we come here to generate the token. And also with this token, JWT token, security token generation, we have to modify this so we can return the name, the row, right? So in here, you can just override this with a simple method like this. So as you can see, we are creating a security token descriptor, and now we assign the subject to this claims identity, and that's the claim that we have over here. Now this claims comprise of the name and the row. We add the days that you want to get it expired. So you want to add just 1 day, and now this is the signing credentials. You pass it to the signing credentials. Now, when it comes to this, we are creating a new token handler. Then we assign the token handler. We create a token here from this token handler that we've created object. We pass in the security token descriptor. Then we now have to write the token. So you can see from here, we have two methods here. We are going to create a token and I will write a token. When we write a token, it has to convert to a string that we can actually get it. So as you can see, we are going to return a user session because you know this method here needs to return user session here. So we have to return a new user session from this, and now we assign this row to the row that we have, username to this email, and now this token to the current token that we have. But as you can see, it is saying something that cannot convert this. So this means that here we have to change this to a user session. So just can just make a copy of the user session and now you paste it here, and that's going to be the user session. Okay, so if this method is return user session, then we don't need to return any object of user session again because we have the endpoint of this method is going to return a model, and I need to return this model to this user session. So this is what you are doing. Now the claims comprise of the name and the row. That's what. Now the name is the email, and the row is the current row that have been assigned to the current user who has been registered. So if this login is returning user session, then we can just copy this. Then we go to the interface and also make it return the user session. So we go to the user repo, and now here instead of this response, we can make it look a session. That is it. Now when we have this, let's go to the user service. Now this has to return a user session. So when you go to the service that is getting this from the client section, so you open the client and now you go to the service. So we see from here that this has to return a user session for the login, but it is returning just a response. So let's make this as user session, and now let's change here to user session. So that's what it is returning. Let's check the interface and also correct the interface as well, and you're good to go. So when you call this method, it is returning a user session. So let's go to the login. Go back to the login here from the client's pages login. Now this method here, when you go down here, it is returning a user session. This result, it is returning a user session. So this user session doesn't have success here. So maybe we can talk about if the result is null or is not null, then we want to get this. Okay, so if results here, it is not null because the results, it is coming in with, let's change this. So if results dot, then you can have access to the token, the username. So maybe you can just use the token. So it's not null. Let's see if, so we are now making a check to see if the token is not null, or we can just make a check with all. But for now, let's try that. So we can pass it all. Now you can have results dot, then gonna have username. So if this result dot username, and that is it, it's not null, or if this result dot row is not null. So the next thing that we have to do here is, now from this result, as soon as you receive it, we want to store it in the local storage. You want to store the ID, the row, the username, and also the token. We want to store this object to local storage. To do that, we have to install one component, and that's the NuGet package known as Blazor.Crypto. That package is what we're going to use to encrypt this, because you don't want to send the normal row as user and also the email to the local storage. You want to then encrypt it before we send it. So let's go to the client, right click on dependencies, and now let's go to manage NuGet packages. So let's paste in this, and that's a Blazor.Crypto. We have to install this package into this project. Yeah, so that is this. Let's install this package. Apply. Okay, so now it is done. So what we need to do here is we have to configure this package in the program.cs file. So we can close this. Then let's go to Solution Explorer. Now program.cs file. So we have our client session over here, and that is a program over here. So let's open this. So in here, let's add the registration. We have to register it, and now here we need to add a key. So we do builder.services.add_crypto, then we pass in the key. This key could be any, so you can override this key with your own key that you want to use for this encryption. So you can see we are pasting this at the wrong side. This is going to be the API, it's supposed to be the client section. So let's grab this quick, and let's go to the client section, program CS. So let's close this. All right, so in here, let's paste it here. Okay, so now we are done. So the next thing to do here is, after specifying our key that we're going to use for this encryption, we are going to encrypt the content, that is the user session response, which comprises of the token, the email, and also the user role. Remember that the email has been, or the token is encrypted already, so we want to exclude the token and want to encrypt the rest. Okay, so let's go to the login.razor, and now in here we have to encrypt before we pass it to the local storage. We can override this line of code here by this. So here we are creating a crypto result, and now before we do this, we have to include some namespace. So control period, we have to use this. So that's the namespace that we need to do, and also we have to create an interface here. So let's go to the top of our page, and as you see, we have this crypto injected, and now let's implement the using statement here. So let's inject the interface, and I will create an object out of this as crypto over here from the service, and you can see it is solved now. So we are encrypting the username, we are encrypting the row, and we assign the row, and then we create a new user session as this new encrypted user session. Then we pass in the row, we pass in the username, and then the token. So with this, we have to, if there's any error here, as you can see from here, if any of this is wrong or is null, then that's what we want to do. We want to set this as so error occurred while logging in, okay, or while authenticating, or while anything. Okay, so you can pass in anything at all. So while authenticating, you can put that in there. Then you can close it. Okay, so this is what we are displaying out in case there's any issue at all. So now we are done with this. Let's try this up and see. So I'm going to save this, and let's run this application and see what's going to happen after we register. Now let's open the row. So I'm going to open this row from database. All right, so we have problem here. Let's check it out from this output. So one field, let's see which one. So this does not return success. Okay, so you want to return this result, and you can say that if result is not null. Yeah, let's do it again. So let's go to our Explorer here and open up our data user row. So right click and call view data, and also let's open the user row too. So that's the user table. Let's open the row, view data. So we have the user row and we have the user data, user rows and user data. Can you see that empty? Now user 2 is empty. Let's check it out from our page when it's running. And now here we can also right click, and I go to inspect element, and we go to applications, and now here we can just clear this off. So we are going to also wait for, you can see that's the local storage. So we're going to wait for the user session as encrypted content. Now let's click on register. So here I'm going to pass in user. So this is user as an example, and that's for the name. Okay, so let's see, this is going to be the email. So I'm going to move this here, and I'm going to say this is user, and the password is string. Let's say this is user at 123, and that is it. You can also make a check over here. So user at 123. Let's see. So if I click on register, let's wait and see for the feedback. So you can see that it is successfully done. Now when we check from our data, so this is the user table. If I refresh this, you're going to see the data over here. So you see we have the data and we have the password encrypted. This is the email. And now when we check the rows too, if I refresh this, you can see we have the user ID of 1, and then the row is user. let's register an admin too. So we go back to the same page, and now in here, let's register another one as an admin. So this is admin, and I'm going to use this admin at example.com, and the password is admin at 123. So admin at 123. So that is the password for the admin. So click on register, and I can see this is also done. So when we check from our database, you see we have here as the user ID going to be 2. We have it row as admin. When you check from the user, you're going to have this is the password, and that is the email. Okay, so now we are good to go. Let's go to the login. So as soon as I log in, let's see. So I'm going to log in with the user. Then user at 123. So if I click on login, you can see that you have the user data here. Now check and see. You can see it has been encrypted. So we have the row encrypted. This is the token, and I have this username. Okay. So we have to go back to the client section, the Authentication State Provider, and now decrypt this content and assign them to the row, and also the username as a claims identity, so we can use them in our authentication and authorization. So let's go back to the Solution Explorer and go to the client. You can see the client, we have a provider, and that's a custom authentication state. So in here, we have to inject the interface that we use for the encryption, and that's the iCrypto service. So control period, let's create an assign field. So we have it set already here. The next thing to do here is to create an anonymous user. So there's an anonymous, meaning the person has not been registered yet. So when you have that, the method that we have in this authentication state, that is an abstract class from this authentication state provider. We want to override this method. We want to decrypt the content in the local storage and now assign them to the claim types. So you can see from here that we get a content from local storage, and that is this, the user data. And also you see from here that we check if it is not null, or if it is null, you want to return the user is not registered. But in case it is not, you create a claim principal, and now you pass in the list of claims here, and these are the claims, the ID, we have the name, and then the row. Now we decrypt this content and I assign it as a username and assign this as a row. The type of the security that we're going to use here is JWT Auth. Aside from that, you're going to return a result. So there's a claim principal. Okay. Then you can see there's a method that you created earlier on to notify state change, and that is what you can do over here. So when we do that here, this means that we can now skip this to standard sense code to decrypt the token, because we are not decrypting the token anymore. You rather want to use the local storage to have access to this, and that's another way of doing it. Okay, so you can decrypt or you can comment this, and that's a few changes that you want to do. It's a very simple one that I want to do in our Authentication State Provider. Now we have this. What you have to do next is to enable the authentication and authorization middleware pipeline in the API. So go to the API, and now open it up, and now go to program.cs file. And now in here, down here, you want to, you can see we have authorization here. So you want to put authentication on top. So we enabled authentication and authorization middleware. So the authentication must come first, then the authorization follows. So you know that when you check the app.razor, it has this mechanism already. That is a cascading authentication. So we can now have access to the authorization view method. Now let's go to our fetch data. So maybe in our fetch data here, from this pages, you can see we have this fetch data. We can maybe authorize this and now assign the row as only admin. So only admin can access this content. Also, let's see from this counter, we can also assign only. So we can assign rows to. So this row is going to be only users. So only user can have access to this. So from the fetch data, it is for admin. So let's copy this. And now for this counter, it is for users. Okay, so it is for users. Aside from that, let's go to the main layout, and it can be found under the shared project. So shared folder, main layout. And now on top here, you can see we have all this. So we can now make a change, and now we can use this. So you want to have the context identity.name. After that, you want to, that is when the user is authorized, display this. If the user is not authorized, then display this when the person logs out. So we can just use this method. So you can see that from here we have on click event here as logout. So when the logout is clicked, we want to remove from this local storage the data over here, and now you want to notify the authentication that something happened. So it should refresh, and it's going to do that. So in the nav menu too, let's make some changes over there consisting of the user and also the administration. So if you're the administrator, you want to see this. If you're the user, you want to see that. If you're not any of them, you don't want to, we want you to see any. Okay, so let's go there and do that. That's the nav menu. Now from this nav menu here, you can see we have this a nav link. So from this nav item, you want to make changes to these three. You can just grab this and you can just paste this here. So it's just that we have put them in this authorized view. Now with this is not authorized at all. So if you're not authorized, you're going to see this, only the home page. But if you are authorized and your row is user, you're going to see this counter. If you're authorized and your user or your row is admin, you're going to see fetch data. Okay, but here you can see you can add multiple rows. So if the user here is admin or user, the user can still see this. Okay, now we have this. So let's see, let's edit this. So now we have to save this, rebuild and apply. So we have an error here, local storage service does not exist. So let's go and add the interface. You can do that by this. Okay, also let's go to the main, that's the index, and display the current user. So that's the index under pages, index.razor, and in here, instead of this, we can display something like this. If it is authorized, you want to display the name. If it is not authorized, you want to display the guest as guest. Now let's run this. All right, so let's find out. So this is not found. Okay, let's go in here and inject this on top. So that's Authentication State Provider. Let's do it again. All right, with us again. Let's see. Now this also not found. So control period. Let's include the namespace, and that's the custom authentication state provider that we created. Yeah. Okay. All right, so you can see when you run it, you have hello user. This is your email, and you are logged in here. And as you can see, from a user can only see this counter. Now, if I click on logout, it does notify, and I can see we have hello guest. We have, you can see only home page here. If I log in and use the admin, so admin, and I use admin at 123, log in, and I'm gonna see the fetch data. So let's click on this. You see we have this fetch data, and I can have access to the fetch data. Okay, now so log out again. You can see I am off. I have this user, or that's a guest. So with this tool, we can also assign multiple rows. Now we see we assign single row to each of these. Maybe we can decide to add here with a counter. We can decide to add admin to this too. So all admins can see this counter as far as user can also see. Now I can just save this, and I can just restart this application. And you're going to see the counter as soon as you log in as an admin, and you're going to see the fetch data nav or link also as well. So let's wait for this to, now let's see. All right, so you can see from here that you have the counter over here and you're an admin. If I log out, now you can see the counter is off. You can see only the home page. Now, if I decide to log in as a user, I will see only the counter. So user 3, then I'm going to log in over here, and I must see only the counter here, and that is it. So that is it for integrating role-based authorization in Blazor Web Assembly. You know, this source code I'll put at the GitHub, so check the description and you'll have a link to click on it to clone it and review. If you like what I'm doing, give me a thumbs up, and also subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that. Thank you for watching this. If you have any comment or any issue, put it at the comment section. Thank you, and I'm going to catch you up in the next video.